Hey y'all, and welcome to the cutest little thing. My name is Andrea, and I'm so glad you are here today. I love all things thrifted, vintage, upcycled, and DIY'd, and here on my YouTube channel, you will find all of those things. I'm from southeastern North Carolina, and I have 2 vendor booths in my local small town where I sell my crafts and DIY home decor. And here I will share all of the video tutorials of those pieces. I'm super excited for today's project, so let's get started. I love to grab these muffin tins from the Dollar Tree for $1.25. I took that sticker off, took it outside, and just gave it a quick coat of black spray paint. I'm grabbing my coffee podge here. If you're not familiar with coffee podge, all that is coffee grunge mixed with school glue of any brand. Taking my sponge brush and just giving that a good coat all over the muffin tin. While that's still wet, you want to go ahead and sprinkle in your cinnamon. And you can go as heavy or as light as you would like with the cinnamon, just all depending on the look that you're going for. You can also coat the back of your pan as well, but I was just happy leaving the back of the pan black. You also want to grab those instant coffee grounds and sprinkle some of those into that wet coffee podge. And also, if you don't want to mix up coffee podge, you can use plain Mod Podge or even school glue for this technique. Once you're happy with the amount of cinnamon and instant coffee grounds, grab that heat tool and give it a good dry. Just heating it up creates that magic here and melts those instant coffee grounds and that cinnamon in with that coffee podge. And then you want to go over it once again with your sponge brush, just dabbing it into your coffee podge mixture and dabbing it back over. You especially want to pay attention to your dried cinnamon areas. That's what you want to dab over the most. While that layer of coffee podge is still wet, I grab that cinnamon one more time and do another layer of the cinnamon. And it's optional how much you layer up your cinnamon and your coffee grounds and your Mod Podge. And once again, grab that heat tool and give it a good dry. And if you don't have a heat tool, you can just use your blow dryer for this. Now we're ready to fill our muffin tin, and I can't wait for you to see what we're going to put in here. Just put you some hot glue in your muffin tin, and you just want to do one at a time and add Spanish moss in after that. And you can also trim it up and give it a little haircut as you go. And continue this until all 6 of your muffin cups are full of your Spanish moss. Now grab you some little pumpkins. I get mine from Amazon. They come in a bulk pack. I'm painting them. This is the color pumpkin and the apple barrel chestnut. I just mixed a little bit of each together just to darken my orange a little bit. And I'm painting 2 of the pumpkins this color. Next, I grabbed the color Pinecone in the Dixie Belle chalk paint, and I painted 2 of my pumpkins that color. And you could choose whatever colors you wanted. I just like to choose 3 different colors and paint 2 pumpkins each color. And lastly, I chose the color Burlap in the Dixie Belle chalk paint as well and painted the last 2 pumpkins that color. After those 2 coats of paint on each pumpkin were good and dry, we were ready to place our pumpkins into our muffin tin. But first, I like to remove the stems that come on the pumpkins and replace them with natural sticks from the yard instead. So I just went out in the yard and chose me a stick, and I broke it into little pieces and simply pressed them into each pumpkin right where the artificial stem was. Then I dabbed a little hot glue around each stem and placed some of that Spanish moss. Next, I grabbed my Behr antique wax and I brushed that over each pumpkin. I just thought that deepened the colors, and this is also going to seal in our chalk paint because our chalk paint doesn't have that built-in sealer. And you can add as much or as little of this as you would like, and then you can wipe away the excess with a dry paper towel. Once that's all situated, we are ready to hot glue our pumpkins into the muffin tin. I just dab a little hot glue on the bottom of each pumpkin and place them into each muffin cup. And I do kind of stagger my pumpkins so the colors will be spread out and alternated. Next, I grabbed my Jubilee homespun fabric. These are the jelly rolls that I like to order, and I'll just rip those into smaller strips. I'll normally take one piece of the jelly roll and get 3 strips out of it. So that kind of gives you an idea of the width of my fabric that I'm using. So I took 3 strips. Now that orange piece is some fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby, but I just put those 3 strips together, put some hot glue, and I wrap it from the top of the muffin tin down to the bottom. Then I'll grab another 3 strips and wrap it from side to side, and I'll just hot glue it on the back side and trim away that excess. And you can put that excess to the side to make a bow. Grab your bow maker, put that piece of jute string down, don't forget that, and I just take those same colors in the fabric that we used and make my loops in my bow maker. And this bow maker came from homesteadcrafterdiy.com. I also decided to add some raffia in with my bow just for an added texture, and I love the color. Once you're happy with the size of your bow and the amount of fabric that you have, just pull up on those jute strings, give it a good tie. I like to do a double knot and just kind of adjust your loops, and then you'll simply hot glue that right onto the side of that muffin tin, nestled in between those pumpkins. I grabbed a cute button that said handmade with love, hot glued that to the center of that bow for an added embellishment. And look how cute this is. I did decide to add a tag. So I grabbed a little wooden tag. I get these from Amazon, my ink pad, and I grabbed these letter stamps I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm simply going to stamp the word fall onto our tag. And I like to take that ink pad and just go around that tag, add some hot glue on the back, nestle that in those fabric strips right at the base of that button. And this cute little pumpkin patch muffin tin is all done. Look how cute this is. I just love making these, and the possibilities are endless. You can do whatever colors you would like for your pumpkins and your fabrics. All different kinds. These are so cute to lean on your shelf, lean up with your other fall decor pieces, on your mantle, anywhere in your home. Y'all let me know what you think of this. I am so glad you're here today, and I hope you're enjoying today's video. If you are and you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you'll do that before you go. Hit that notification bell, choose all notifications so you don't miss a thing. All right, let's get back to the DIYs. I ended up finding a little collection of these blue ribbon vintage geese canister sets. I had these and a couple of the 3-piece canister sets in my booth for a while, and they didn't sell. So I decided to bring these into my craft room and give them a primitive makeover. So I'm using the color Sawmill Gravy and the Dixie Belle chalk paint, and I gave both canisters a good full coat. I grabbed those lids and painted them up as well. I set those aside to dry, and I grabbed my label. Y'all know how I have been loving the Campfire Marshmallow vintage tins, and I purchased these labels off of Etsy. I purchased a few of them, but I love this one. So I printed it from my inkjet printer on regular printer paper, and now I'm just taking my paintbrush, dipping it in water, and trimming out this middle part because I'm going to divide the label since I have 2 canisters, and we're just going to put part of it on one canister and part of it on the second canister. I grabbed my Mod Podge and a brush, and I just put some Mod Podge on the back of that label and then brushed it on with my paintbrush. You just want a good thin layer, not too thick because that could cause more wrinkles, but not too thin because then it won't adhere. I took my fingers and smoothed out that label. We are going to have some excess paper on the top and the bottom, but that's okay. When this dries, we can take our sander and sand off that excess paper. I like to use my heat tool to help with that drying process, and that heat is also setting our ink as well as helping get those wrinkles out of our paper. Next, I grabbed the other part of our label that said Finest, and I grabbed our other canister, our smaller one, and I applied that Mod Podge on the back of that label and applied it on just like we applied the first one on. Being sure it's centered, good, and lined up, and just pressing that down with your fingers. You want to be gentle, being sure you don't accidentally tear your paper. And applying that heat as well. I grabbed my gator sander to sand off that excess paper, and you want to be sure your Mod Podge and your tin and all the things are good and dry before you do this step. Now we are ready to rust up our tins, making them look old and vintage. And to do that, we need our instant coffee grounds. I took some of that paint and put in a bowl and just added some of those instant coffee grounds in with that paint, stirred them in really well. This is going to create some texture as well as those coffee grounds just kind of melting as we paint them on and giving that old vintage look. If you'll notice how that label looks on the white part of it, that's the look I'm going for here on the entire tin. I want to mimic that look, that rusty, worn out look. So I'm just dabbing on that paint. I am doing a dabbing motion versus a brush stroke motion because I don't want those brush stroke lines in this. So you just want to pounce your brush onto your piece. You could also use a sponge brush with this if you wanted to. Go all the way around your piece from one side to the other, getting around that label very carefully as well. And while that paint is still wet on our piece, we want to take some of those instant coffee grounds, and I'll just kind of press them and make them even finer pieces, and lightly sprinkle that into our wet paint. And we're not going super heavy with this, just here and there, but you do want to put it heavier in some spots than others. That just gives it a more realistic look. I'm going in with a little more paint. Once I got to the other side, that paint has started drying a little bit, so it's really better to work in sections, and I usually do that. So just paint a section, dab on your paint, and then sprinkle your instant coffee grounds. Then dab on another section with your paint, and just do that until you work your way around the entire piece. And once you're satisfied with how much coffee grounds you have, grab that heat tool and you just want to dry those coffee grounds into your paint. They will just kind of melt when that heat is applied. I just love this technique and I love these campfire tins. I was making them this summer, but I thought they are perfect for the fall too, because fall is the perfect time of year for those campfires and roasting those marshmallows. So I couldn't hold back from making one for fall as well. I set those tins to the side, grabbed those lids, pouncing that paint on just the same. I wanted to do my lids the same way. Sprinkled in those instant coffee grounds. Now applying that heat with that heat tool, melting in those instant coffee grounds. I decided to take my Sweet Pickins beeswax in the dark. I grabbed my blender brush and brushed on some of that wax over that label just so that it would blend a little bit better. The label ended up being lighter than the tin itself. So that just helped darken that label and helped it blend right in. I'm also a retailer for the Sweet Pickins milk paint and milk paint products. You can message me over on my Facebook business page to place all of your orders. I went around that other tin as well. That label had a little bit of that lighter color showing, and I just thought that wax was the perfect touch for those labels. And that completed this project. Y'all, I love how these tins turned out. I was so torn about painting them in the beginning because they were vintage with those 1980s geese on there. But I love how these came out. And I love those campfire marshmallow tins. I've had my eye out for a real vintage one. I haven't found one that's in my price range. But until then, I'll just keep grabbing those canisters and those tins from the thrift store and making my own. I hope y'all love this technique, and I hope y'all love how this turned out. And please don't be mad with me for painting over a vintage piece. Y'all let me know what you think of these. I have been loving our fall DIYs from the kitchen series, and this item from the kitchen that we're using for this project are salt and pepper shakers. We also need lots of fabric for this project, so I've grabbed some Hobby Lobby fabric, some Jubilee homespun, and this burlap ribbon that I get from Amazon. I have my little measuring mat out here, so I'm cutting my pieces of ribbons and fabric about 11 inches long. That's what I started with, but then I ended up cutting them about 11.5 inches. You could go ahead and do the full foot if you wanted yours to be a little bit longer. I'm sure you can take a guess what we are making. We've made these before. We are making salt and pepper shaker tassels. But they are so much fun, and I had to make some for fall. I'm just measuring out all of my ribbons here and my fabrics. You want them all the same lengths. And I just begin crisscrossing them, and then I'll lay a piece down in the middle. And I just use several different designs and different colors. You just want your colors and everything to coordinate together. And you can make your tassels as thick as you would like them. I know some like them thicker, some like them thinner. I think I counted where I laid down 20 pieces of fabric and ribbons. And you just alternate and crisscross, then go through that middle layer until you are happy with the thickness of your tassel. I did forget to lay down my piece of wire, but that's okay. When I got ready for it, I just slid it underneath my ribbons. I use this floral wire I get off of Amazon. It's very easy to work with. I just cut a long piece. I went underneath all of that, and then I pull it tight. You want to make sure you pull it very tight, and then I twist it several times, because you don't want it to go anywhere. You want it to hold securely. Once I have that in place, I do grab a piece of jute string and I tie it with a piece of jute string in a double knot for extra hold. And then I cut away those excess strings. Next, you grab that salt or pepper shaker. I just think these little pumpkins are too cute. And you want to feed your wire through, up underneath, through the top, and you want one wire to go in each hole. You don't want your wires to go in the same hole. You want to pull that really tight, just kind of push your salt or pepper shaker down as snug as you can get it, and then I will take that wire and I will tie it in a double knot, being sure it is good and snug. I like to embellish mine with these cute wooden beads. I get these off of Amazon, and I just slide 2 of those wooden beads right over my wire, and I tie my wire once again in that double knot. But see how easy this wire is to work with? It's good and strong, but yet it's still, you can work with it and tie it in a knot. Then I take a piece of the fabric that matches the fabric I used in my tassel for my hanger, and I just slide a piece of that through that tie before I tie it all the way down. You can kind of see how I'm doing that here. It's hard to explain that part. And then I tie it in that double knot once again. And then you can just cut away your excess wire because you don't need that, because you will hang your tassel with that piece of fabric that you put. And it's held nice and secure in place. And then you can fluff your ribbons and your fabrics and trim them if needed. I also had these cute bird salt and pepper shakers, so I decided to make a couple of those as well. So we'll go through this process once again, just so you can see it a second time. I cut all my ribbons and my fabrics that I wanted to use for these. I remembered to put down my wire this time. Look at this cute music sheet fabric I got from Hobby Lobby. And that burlap ribbon with the lace, I'm not sure where I got that from, but it was a much wider ribbon and I just cut it. I cut it into thirds, I believe. And then this ribbon I'm putting here is like postcard fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I just tore it into strips and I just kept layering my fabrics. You can choose any fabrics and ribbons that you have on hand. The possibilities are endless. I know I say that about every project, but it's the truth. Twist that wire, and then you want to feed it through your salt or pepper shaker. One wire in each hole. Press that shaker down snugly onto your fabrics. Give that a double knot. And I like to embellish with these wooden beads. You can embellish with any beads you would like. And then I do a double knot with that wire. But I don't go all the way with that second one. I put that piece of fabric through that I want to use for my tie. I give that a double knot as well, just to make sure it's good and secure. Cut away that excess fabric. And then you can cut away those excess wire pieces because you no longer need those. And when you're cutting your wire to go under your ribbon, just make sure it's good and long because you can always trim away that excess. And look how pretty that is. I just love all the burlap and the lace together. And that completes our salt and pepper shaker tassels. I hope you love them. The first time I saw these, I saw Labriska from My Eclectic Treasures over on Facebook. So if y'all aren't following her, please go check out her page. She does beautiful work. But I saw her do these for the first time, and I thought they were so beautiful. I especially love them at Christmas time because they're beautiful on your Christmas tree, but you can hang these on a cabinet knob. You can hang them from a lantern or just anywhere you have a little hook or maybe like a peg hook in your kitchen or from a ceiling fan chain. I just think they are super cute, and you can get so many different salt and pepper shakers at your Cracker Barrels for 99 cents. And of course, you can thrift them as well. And that brings us to the end of today's video, y'all. I hope y'all love these fall projects. All right from your kitchen cabinets, you can create these beautiful decor pieces for your home. I love these rusting techniques, these faux rusting techniques. I know y'all can definitely tell with as much as I use my cinnamon and my instant coffee grounds for my crafts. But I just love it. I love that old look and that primitive look. Let me know if you'll be trying any of these, or let me know if you've already tried them. I love to hear all about your projects as well. Don't forget, you can head over to Facebook. I have a group with 3 other friends of mine, Emily's Upcycled Home, Michelle's Crafty Crafts, and Cindy's Flips to Primitive Crafty Crafts. We have our group Crafting with the Hot Mess Express. You can join with us in that group and post your crafts, and also see live events we usually host once a month. And also with these tassels, I just thought about it. If you do a fall tree as part of your decor, these would be so cute to include there as well. Let me know in the comments if you do a fall tree. I think they are beautiful. I've just never done one. I look forward to chatting with you all in the comments. I also look forward to next week. I will see you with a new video. They've been coming out on Saturday nights. So that's what we'll stick to for a while, as long as that works. I hope y'all have a blessed rest of your weekend and a blessed week ahead. Thank you all for all of your support for my channel. I appreciate it so much, more than you know. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now, friends.